everybody doing this Monday? Already getting hearts. I love that. I love that. Oh my God. Okay, so today we are doing part 2 of I was in the Callan Faulkner bootcamp, and last week I shared with you guys some of the cool things that we learned and that we built inside of that bootcamp, and today's part 2 of that because the bootcamp finished last week. I feel like these calls are kind of like cool shit I'm building, or cool shit I've learned, or cool shit I'm changing that I want to share with you guys. That's like what these calls are becoming. And so what we're going to be talking about today is the part 2 of the cool stuff I learned in Callan Faulkner's AI bootcamp. I feel like what I get, and I think I said this last week, but I'm going to reiterate it today. I think what I get about participating in bootcamps like that is I'm not necessarily going to go like fully Claude, though I've started using Claude infinitely more than I use ChatGPT now. Still use Notion AI more, but like I'm never going to be like fully Claude. And that's part of the reason I didn't join her program is she is very Claude centric. And that's not necessarily how I want to operate with my AI usage, but I still get so many ideas. I think use cases is my favorite part of joining boot camps like that. And that's kind of what I'm sharing with you today is some of my favorite use cases. I did the part 1 last week and we're gonna do them part 2 this week. So if you want to check out part 1, I can't go snag the recording right now, but what I will go ahead and do is when I post the recording of this, I will link it. I will link to part 1 of this in the body text for when I post the recording of this. So, yeah, so in terms of like where I want to start with this, Callan actually said something last week, and she said it throughout her boot camp that really, really resonated with me. And I honestly think it's a fantastic strategy for Notion as well. She said something about how overwhelm is inspiration without a plan. And she talked about overwhelm a lot in the boot camp. Like, hey guys, I'm going to give you a lot of information and it might feel overwhelming, but just think about how overwhelm is inspiration without a plan. Overwhelm is a sign of opportunity. And it was this whole notion of reframing overwhelm. And I feel like that's the whole of AI in the moment right now. And what we're talking about right now, like the whole AI moment that is happening right now is overwhelm, right? Overwhelm and opportunity. And if we can take that overwhelm and turn it into a plan and turn it into okay, this is what I'm actually going to take from this and what I'm going to synthesize from this, it becomes so much more actionable. I feel like most people stockpile tools and prompts. And I think how we can use AI best is to pick a few things that are very, very high impact and run with those and use those on repeat. And last week I teased 2 of the prompts that I've been using a ton lately and that I really want to show you today, as well as a kind of third thing that I find pairs really, really well that I'm really excited to show you guys. So the 2 things we're going to be talking about in this call today, and I'm going to show you the prompts and the outputs that I've gotten from them. And I will say, spoiler alert, I used Claude to run these reports because that's what her prompts were built on and I wanted to test it. I'm creating Notion versions of these prompts that I'm going to be sharing with you guys once I test them to make sure that those Notion versions of the prompts work. But these 2 prompts that I was teasing last week were, one, she called it a voice of customer prompt. And the idea with this is to pull language straight from real humans so that when you are creating your offers and creating your content, it stops sounding like AI slop and like LinkedIn BS, and it actually starts speaking more specifically to the clients that you're serving. So that's the first one we're going to take a look at. And then the second one we're going to take a look at was this competitive research prompt. Basically, see what other people are claiming, see what's working for them, and where you can kind of plant your flag and be like, hey, this is what makes me different. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you those prompts. I'm going to show you the output I got from them. And then I'm going to show you what I did with them once I got the output. And again, these prompts are from Callan, so I'm not going to be sharing them with you guys because I paid for them. And it just doesn't feel in integrity to me to take something that was a paid asset and just share it with you guys freely. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using those prompts, kind of taking inspiration from those prompts and creating Notion versions of them. And once I confirm that we get similar outputs from those Notion versions, I will share those with you guys. Okay. So TBD on all of that. But let's go ahead on and dive into some of these. And I hope that's cool with you guys. I know that like obviously it would be easier and you get it more real time if I were to just share it with you guys right now. But I just, yeah, it feels out of integrity to me to do that. I think it's not cool when people are like, I'll pay for it and then I'll share it with everybody. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's dive in. So the prompt, I gotta find my previous conversations because I did this multiple times last week. So I used this voice of customer prompt several times last week, and I did it for kind of the various different aspects of my business. And here's the gist of the prompt. She basically said, you are a senior voice of customer researcher operating at a level of a McKinsey consumer insight engagement, the kind of specialist a Fortune 500 brand pays $100,000 to conduct a single customer intelligence study. Like you can see how detailed her prompt is, which is again, another big reason why I don't want to just give it to you. But she kind of broke it into, this is critical. This is how I want you to conduct your research. This task requires live web research. Do not answer from memory or training data. She told it what she wanted to use, search the internet, browse real websites, read actual Reddit threads, review pages and forum posts to complete this research. And then she gave it a heads up if you don't have live web browsing. And then she gave it a few questions she wanted to ask on intake. So on intake, ask these questions to the user and then break down, here's what I'm working with. And then she has it go through a category translation. So before you start researching, translate my business category into language customers actually use. When searching, complaining, or asking for help, business owners often describe what they do differently than how customers search for it. I loved this line because this is so true. So many of us speak a little bit differently than what our customers say, right? And I really love that she built that in here. And so then she said, okay, your research sources, these are the things that I want you to do. I want you to research complaints, unmet needs, emotional drivers, and customer language at the national or global level, not limited to the user's local market. A frustrated customer in Phoenix has the same complaints as one in Dallas. Pull from the widest possible pool of conversations. And then she gave it all of these places of this is kind of where I want you to look. She gave it source rules, evidence rules, and then this was the part that I really found phenomenal is the output that she had us, that she gave this. So the deliverables were what they care about. So give it a what's driving them crazy, pull direct quotes. And then we had the hidden layer section, the language bank, and she literally had it pull 30 to 40 direct quotes from real consumers and organize them into pain quotes, desire quotes, delight quotes, trigger quotes, decision quotes, what they'll pay more for, the unmet needs ranked, the opportunity brief, your top 3 moves, and then a place where you as the user could go deeper. So insane prompt here, right? So I ran this prompt, I answered my questions, and how I personally did it, because I feel like what I do has layers. Like I do Notion, absolutely. But like really what I'm all about is I want to be able to help you perform more sustainably in your business and your life. Like a lot of people who come to me are incredibly burned out, right? So I actually broke this into a couple different layers of research because I wanted to be able to tackle it from when people are looking for Notion, what are they saying? When people are looking for burnout, what are they saying? And then I actually, if you don't know this about me, spoiler alert, I also work with students. I do essentially kind of similar work, but with students. And then I also layer tutoring into that. So I provide academic and ACT and SAT tutoring support, and then also like mentorship and coaching to high school students. I do about 10, 15 hours a week working with students. So I did this first one on Notion and I kind of answered all of these prompt questions. I'm going to go ahead and close the prompt. I answered all of these onboarding questions. I kind of dropped in information that I have from elsewhere. So like when it asked me like, who's your ideal customer? I have that actually like legit written out inside of my Notion. So I just copied that and brought it over. And then they answered all of these questions and then it went through and it did it research. And look at the output it gave me. So voice of customer research reports, category translation. They're looking for Notion templates for solopreneurs, Notion for an ADHD entrepreneur, productivity system that actually works for me, solopreneur burnout productivity help. So these are things that they pulled. And then they said what they care about is the dopamine then collapse cycle. I'd be interested to hear, for those of you who are watching live or even for those of you who are watching the recording, if you resonate with these quotes that they're about to share, because I know so many of you come to me for Notion support. every time the cycle was the same: initial dopamine hit, obsessive setup, color coding, templates, tweaking fonts, 2 days of productivity, and then full system collapse and back to scrolling into a guilt spiral when it comes to switching, to a new platform or, starting to use Notion. This person said, I've tried Trello, Notion, Evernote, ClickUp. I wasn't lazy. I was overloaded. Turns out most productivity systems are made for neurotypical brains. This was from a Medium article. It took us weeks of building, testing, and tweaking to get things right. But because Notion is so flexible, there's also no consensus. This I actually very much resonated with, because Notion is so flexible. There's no consensus on the right way to use it. Ultimately, you're on your own to figure out what works for you, right? You guys crack me up. It's too early to be called out like that. So it went through, and it's literally assigning quotes from people on the internet to like a particular thing they are experiencing. So the dopamine then collapse cycle, the Frankenstein template problem, which I've heard a lot of people talk about this. What started as a shortcut becomes a Frankenstein of patched together fixes. This is where most Notion users hit a wall. They feel like they're constantly working on the system instead of with it. Chris, I just want it to work, they say. So like Frankenstein template problem, blank page paralysis. I've talked about this before. The best part about Notion is the worst part about Notion. It's a blank slate. You can build whatever you want, but it's a blank slate. You have to build what you want. And so like that flexibility is amazing and a superpower, but it is also incredibly overwhelming, right? So it goes through all of this. Not built for my brain, too many tools, the solopreneur loneliness of figuring it all out alone, the ADHD shame loop. Like it built all of this from the research it did, which I was just like mind blown. And then the it finally clicked moment, which I find if you can get to this moment, oh my God, you're going to be obsessed with Notion. But sometimes it's hard to get to this moment. So the it finally clicked moment, the all-in-one mental freedom, the coach who sees them clearly, the community as the unexpected win, the permission to stop performing productivity, and then the hidden layer. So it like goes through it. This whole entire thing is the output it gave me. And then I personally think this is one of the most powerful parts of it is the language bank they give you. So these are their pain quotes. I have too many things on my plate, balancing a 9-to-5, side business, family with no system to manage it all. Nothing gets finished and I burn out. Hey, yeah, this was from my onboarding data. I actually uploaded one of my spreadsheets of onboarding data I had. I've tried every planner, every app, every system. When it doesn't work, I blame myself thinking something is wrong with me. Relatable, right? So the pain quotes, and then it's the desire quotes. I want a system that works with my brain, not against it. I want to finally feel in control of my own life. I want to perform at a high level and feel good doing it. I want to stop being the bottleneck in my own business. I want a system that doesn't feel like a chore. All I want is for things to not fall through the cracks. So delight quotes, things that make them happy, trigger quotes, decision quotes, all of these things. And then the what they'll maybe pay more for, being understood before being sold to, a system built for their brain, not a generic brain, implementation support, not just content, AI integration into their system, and then some unmet needs. So people saying things that they wish were out there. I wish there was a system that combined my life and business, not just work. That's literally why my OS is the Solopreneur Life and Business OS. I wish I had someone to tell me what to do next when I'm paralyzed. I wish my productivity system helped me manage my energy. So it did all of this from this onboarding. And then what she had us do next, this is kind of the part 2 of it. Oh, I guess I didn't do this all in the same conversation in this one. Is it in here? It might be in another conversation. Yeah, because I think that conversation stopped working, so I had to like run it again. So here is that entire like brief. And then I said, okay, like this is amazing. Now I want you to do a part 2. So this was part 2 that she gave us in the AI bootcamp. She had it do a competitive analysis. Basically, I've got all of this information. Now, how do I find my niche so I can set myself apart from other people who do the exact same work as me? And she had it do, you can see this prompt is very similar in terms of setup as the last one was. You are a senior competitive research strategist operating at a level of a McKinsey competitive war room, the kind of specialist a Fortune 500 brand pays $100,000 for to map a competitive landscape for making a market move. And then we've got how to conduct the research, similar to last time, intake questions, and then the output. So she's got a very, very similar breakdown to the last one that we just looked at. And she literally differentiated in here between these are your evidence rules. This is how you know you've got a weak finding. Competitor X has good reviews and offers competitive pricing versus a strong finding, which is what we're looking for here, is we've got a focus, positioning, pricing, their market, their reputation, and then some of their recent moves and where they're winning. So she like literally differentiate, this is like a crappy finding versus this is a good finding. And then the whole output format again. So I had it run this again. And I figured, I was like, I'm just going to do these in the same conversation because it basically already has all the information it needs to know about my business. And I actually think it might be helpful for it to see this voice of customer before it runs this competitive analysis. So I decided to do both of these in the same conversation. And it literally even pulled out competitors I recommend scanning. And again, this is all still just for Notion, just for the Notion side of things. And I recognize all of these names. Notion Mastery by Marie Poulin, Thomas Frank Explains, Red Gregory, Easlow. And actually, I was so hyped about this, and I don't know if it's biased because it's me, but it showed me. And I was just like, hey, I'm Coach Ellen. That's so cool. Like, I don't know if it found me because I'm the person talking to it or if it actually found me in AI results because that's something I've been working on. And so I did tell it, like, don't include me. Like, don't include me in the competitive analysis because that's me. And so then it did the same competitive analysis. And this, again, super, super cool. And it broke it down just like it said above. So we've got our first person that we're talking about, their recent moves, where they're winning, where they're losing. So like some of the pieces of places that they could improve. And then it did that for every single one of the competitors it identified. And then at the very end of this, scroll, the gap map. So it looked for what are gaps in what all of these people who are doing, who have successful businesses, what are the gaps? Nobody diagnoses before they build. So every competitor in the landscape skips straight to the deliverable, the template, the course, the workspace. Marie teaches you the tool. Thomas Frank sells you the template. OBMs run the system they design without asking why your previous systems failed. Not one of them leads with a formal diagnosis of what's actually breaking down in the founder's business before proposing a solution. Nobody builds for bad days. Nobody provides the implementation to ownership bridge. No competitor is explicitly winning the solopreneur under 300K systems client. Nobody is winning the aesthetics and function combination. So then it gave me an action plan from this and a threat radar. So like things to watch out for in the next 90 days. So like this is actually a cool one. Notion's own AI agent creating a just have Notion build it for you narrative. If Notion's AI becomes good enough to auto build basic operating systems, the bottom of your market, basic builds, gets commoditized. The diagnostic and coaching layers remain irreplaceable, but the positioning needs to move further from I build Notion systems toward I diagnose and architect your operating system. I just found all of this really, really fascinating. So it did all of this breakdown. And again, I did this for multiple aspects of my system. So this was the Notion one. Then I went ahead and did I need to just search voice of customer. Yeah, so that was I need to rename these, but I just don't work in Claude enough to worry about renaming them. So then I did this exact same thing again, but I did it more from the sustainable performance burnout coaching perspective. And then I also did this for the tutoring perspective. I think I did it. I think this is the right conversation. Yeah, exact same thing, but then I did it from the tutoring perspective. And this was actually, all of this has been super insightful, but the one that I probably took the most action on thus far is the tutoring one, because one of the things, I'm going to go ahead and stop my share really quickly. One of the things that it said from the tutoring side of things is, hey, part of the reasons why families get frustrated when they're working in tutoring is they don't feel like they know what's going on with their student. So having some sort of a portal where they can see what your recent sessions have been about, the student's progress, etc., is really, really important for them. So that's something that can be like a perk of working with you if you have a portal. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and I'm anonymizing one of my students, so you can see what I went ahead and did with this. So I went ahead with that, knowing, okay, my families and my clients actually really care about having a sort of portal. I literally went into Base 44, which is a vibe coding platform. It's my personal favorite vibe coding platform. And I built a portal for my students. You can see it's branded, it's got all my stuff, and I anonymize the student. So they just type in their student's first and last name, and then you view the dashboard, and we can see the student's ACT score progress. They can see the sessions, they can see the recent milestones, and then they can go in here and download their homework. And even see she completed the last 2 homework assignments, but she only partially completed this homework assignment. So, and I literally like linked all of this up to like my existing systems that I already use. I already use my Notion to keep to take notes. And I linked it up so that when I click this button in Notion, it sends all the information to the portal, and it sends an email to the family of, hey, this is what we did in our recent session. You can find all the information and your homework here. So literally from that, I built that little tool. But what I've personally been doing, because again, I'm trying not to be Claude centric, is I've been moving all of these reports that I've been getting into Notion. I have in my Notion system, I have a document hub, and I have moved all of these reports into here. So like I have my competitive intelligence briefing for burnout, and I have my voice of customer for burnout. So when I'm talking to my AI agent, I can literally just say, hey, I want to update my homepage with my voice of customer report information. Help me do that. And it'll help me do that, pulling in all of this information that we've already got in here. So all of these are already in here. The competitive intelligence and voice of customer for burnout. And then we have, and I've done way too many of these, the voice of customer for Notion, the voice of customer for tutoring is right here. And then the competitive intelligence briefing for all of these. And then I also saved the prompt in here for this as well. So that's probably one of my favorite things we did last week. I have literally used it like multiple times since last week, and I've really found that to be fantastic. Now, the other thing that she gave us that I'm also going to be using a lot is she gave us this prompt and this, it's this Claude skill that basically interviews you for all of your best stories. And from that, you build a story bank. And that is another one that I haven't actually used that yet, but that's one that I'm really, really excited to use because it gets your like highest impact stories out of your head. And then I personally already have something in my Notion systems called a story bank. And it allows you to like take your stories and like turn them into something that's like actually usable. So like I already have a story bank in here. It's something that I built a while ago when I was working with a copywriter. And I just haven't updated it in a while. So I'm really excited to use her prompt to like go in and actually update that story bank. So that was another thing. But so what I really am planning on, like kind of the concepts really that I'm coming back to is the notion of we've got to like understand how your market is talking. And that's where that voice of customer prompt comes in. Understand like how to speak to them and what stories are going to resonate with them, which is where the story bank thing is going to come in. I just haven't used it yet. And then the know your playing field. Like I already know the people who are competitors in my niche, and I'm sure you do too. But I think the part that gets really, really interesting is like seeing what they're actually doing in real time and using AI to help you. So I am working on, and actually I've got the prompts. I just need to test them. I need to run them for, the voice of customer, and the competitive research analyst. I've got those, my version, like my Notion AI version of those prompts. I'm just going to test them really quickly, probably this afternoon to see if they work. And if they work, that is something that I'm happy to share with you guys, because I think what we can do from that is you grab like 10, 20 quotes of customer text, run that voice of customer synthesizer, and then like you can literally turn that into a story bank with like 3 questions that you're answering for specifically for those customers. I see we got, will that be next week? I'm not sure exactly what that question was specifically asking about. Oh, the story bank. That will, honestly, I'm probably going to post a video about that later this week, because next week I want to show you some of the other cool shit that I've been doing in my Notion system. I don't know what next week's going to be. I just recently changed how I'm planning my week that I really, really like, because I feel like I've got a much clearer picture of how much shit I'm asking myself to do every single week and being able to adjust accordingly, because I'm not a superhero and I can't work 12 hours every single day. So I really want to show that, but I will share the story bank. It'll probably be a video sometime later this week once I've had an opportunity to play with it, but definitely like TBD on all of that. But I'm going to test out those prompts today, the like Notion version of those prompts. Make sure that Notion AI can give you the output. You know, should you use research mode or should you just use basic like web search mode? I'm going to play with that. And then I'll post those. So I'll probably update today's, when I post the recording of this, they'll probably be put either links to the prompts in that document or whatever. I'll announce it to you guys. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet because I still got to test out the prompts. But so this was a paid bootcamp that I did the last 2 weeks from a gal named Callan Faulkner. I'll put her name in the chat, Callan Faulkner. She had this effortless business bootcamp the last 2 weeks where she showed some of what she's doing with AI. It was a lot of basics. It was a lot of like, this is what a Claude skill is. This is this, this is this. But like, it was definitely valuable. I got a lot of use cases out of it, but she has like an $8,000 program that she was selling at the end of it. So you might still be able to sign up for it. You just will see the recordings instead of the live calls. If you know you're going to be on top of this immediately, there's like a $47 version and then there's a $200 version. The VIP is the $200 version. I would probably, if you know you're going to, and it's mostly about Claude, like everything, like she basically says, hey, you can do this exact same thing in ChatGPT, but everything she's showing is in Claude. So when she screen shares, when she walks through things, she's showing Claude, not Notion. So that's kind of what I've been trying to do, is take her Claude stuff. And you can see I'm still running the like prompts in Claude, but I take the output and I dump it into Notion. And when I'm actually using the outputs that I get, I'm using them with Notion AI. So she's very Claude centric in how she operates. And I thought it was interesting to use Claude, especially she touches on Claude design and Claude co-work a little bit. I thought it was interesting, but yeah, the name of the bootcamp was the Effortless Business Bootcamp. Yeah, Effortless Business Bootcamp. And then her company is called the Uncommon Business. But yeah, she called it the Effortless Business Bootcamp. And then let me see. She needs to give me a friggin' affiliate code for how much I've shared this recently. But let me see if I can find it, because I can drop the link in there. Copy link address. Okay, here's the link to it. Yeah. And then yeah, it's done. You cannot can't join the live sessions anymore. And the price might have gone up from when I initially signed up for it. But yeah, it's definitely lots of really, really good use cases in there. Oh, I didn't realize we set the same link at basically the same time. Go team. All right. But yes, if you need any help, because that's what I've been trying to do, translating what she's teaching over to Notion AI, that's really been my focus as of recently. So yeah, that's all I've got for you guys today. You can see how those reports I thought were just insane, so helpful, answering so many questions. With Notion, do you need another AI? So the Notion AI, how the Notion AI works is you can switch which model you are using to search in Notion AI. Like when you go into Notion AI, you can, here, I'll reshare my screen, and then I've got to go because I got another call after this, but I'll reshare my screen. Down here with Notion AI, you can actually change which model you are using. Auto will auto select which model it thinks is best, but you can say, okay, I'm mostly a Claude user, so I want it to use Sonnet or Opus 4.7. You can pick which Claude model. You can use Gemini if you're mostly a Gemini user. You can use the different ChatGPT models. This looks like it is a Notion model. I don't usually use that. I usually either use Auto or I use one of the Claude ones. So you don't have to pay for a separate platform per se. But I will say that that's kind of what I'm playing with, is I want to test the different prompts on Notion AI and see if I get a very similar output on Notion AI as I get when I'm on Claude. That's kind of what I've been playing with. But no, you don't. When you're using Notion AI, you do not need to pay for another AI because you get access to all of the models. Okay, I'm glad you guys enjoyed this. It's so cool, right? Highly recommend. Once I test these prompts out, which I'm going to do hopefully sooner rather than later, I will give them to you guys. You can test them out for yourselves because I want all of us to make lots of money and have successful businesses. So this just feels like a really, really fantastic tool here. Yeah, definitely. I'm going to show you guys the story bank. So once I get that up and running, I will share that. But yeah, any other requests or anything, I feel like this has just become cool shit I'm building and playing with in Notion and in AI and in automations and systems and tech call. But if you have anything specifically that you guys want to see, let me know. All right, I got to head to my next call. Have a great Monday, everybody. And I will talk to you all soon. Mwah!